The concept of squares closely correlates with attacking the space behind the opponent's last line. Therefore, I will also use it to present the ways in which my team tries to do this. First, I will talk about concepts derived from the square spaces. One of them relates to the use of the third man, while the other is associated with a player running through the half space. Of course, since we are talking about attacking the space behind the opponent's last line, the described concepts will relate to actions starting in squares number 2 and 3. As previously described, the third man activity can be executed when the player participating in it is able to create space behind him. This is possible only if in the initial phase of the process he effectively lengthens the playing space and draws the opponent's attention, causing him to follow. The entire process involves a high risk of losing the ball, so the key action is to release the ball in a close position under the opponent's pressure to a teammate positioned frontally towards the opponent's goal. In the case of a striker dropping from position, the so-called Italian trick can be applied, meaning the ball is directly introduced behind the opponent's last line to a partner running into the created space. In this way, the group responsible for creating a scoring opportunity uses the third man activity. The striker dropping from position can also pass the ball to a teammate positioned one line lower who has a better perspective on the opponent's goal. Only this player will then be able to introduce the ball into the space behind the opponent's last line, extending the process by one pass and involving an additional player. In such cases, we talk about the fourth man activity. Both the third man and fourth man activities can be executed in the third square space, as well as in the half spaces, for example, in the second square. A different course and conclusion have an action started by a player who consistently operates within the square space and doesn't move from another position. Receiving the ball without the opponent's assistance, this player can turn and progress on the field. After receiving the ball within the opponent's structure, he can also decide to reintroduce it outside the area occupied by the opponents. The described player performs actions in the second square referring to the half space. After passing the ball outside the opponent's structure, he can use the half space to run behind the fullback to receive the ball. This activity is called running through the half space in my game idea. It allows receiving the ball behind the fullback who is directly involved in retrieving the ball from the winger. This action also serves as a prelude to another one called multiple tens. The player running through the half space doesn't necessarily have to receive the ball, but can draw the attention of the central defender who will follow, opening space in the central corridor of the field. The ball can then be directed to another teammate running in from the second line. Focusing on the complexity of group activities cannot lead to neglecting individual activities. When attacking the space behind the opponent's last line, individual activities are crucial, such as passing the ball behind the last line, the so-called final pass, and running behind the last line. These two elements are also included in my game idea. I also draw on the knowledge shared by the Argentine coach Marcelo Bielsa, who proposed 5 ways to unmark oneself from an opponent's protection. All of these methods are present in my team's training process, and some elements are integral to my game idea. One such element occurring in the context of attacking space is the run behind the opponent from the first line. In developing this activity within the team, my goal is to focus on one key aspect. Namely, I instruct the players that the acceleration of actions and the pass should occur when the player attacking the space is in close proximity to the back of the targeted opponent. Another way to unmark oneself from protection, borrowed from Marcelo Bielsa, is to break away from the opponent in the first line. In this action, it's crucial that the pass is made at the moment the receiving player breaks away from the opponent. This action most commonly occurs in counter-attack situations when the opponent narrows the space to defend the window of the goalpost. Another solution proposed by Bielsa for attacking space is the run behind the opponent from the second line. Similar to the solution executed on the ground, in this airborne action, the acceleration of actions and the pass occur when the player attacking the space is in close proximity to the opponent and his partner, who pulls the defender out of position. The concept of multiple tens is a solution proposed by the Dutch coach Erik ten Hag. This action has already been discussed when I presented an alternative way of using the half space, different from passing the ball to a player running through it. In the concept of multiple tens, the idea is to make a movement that draws the opponent's attention. Such a movement allows for increasing the space between two opponents, into which a second line player runs and ultimately receives the ball. Let's now examine the elements of passing and receiving the ball behind the opponent's last line presented on a football pitch model. The player attacking the space behind the opponent playing in the last line expects an accurate through pass. In the first phase of the action, he controls the space and the opponent, and as he approaches, he communicates his intention to receive the ball to his partner. At the moment the ball is passed, he runs into the previously determined space. In the technique of passing the ball, it's important to impart a spin that will allow the receiving player to catch up with and control it effortlessly. When receiving the ball, it's crucial not to stray beyond the window of the opponent's goalpost, as this may limit the ease of taking a shot at the opponent's goal. The next model shows the moment of the final pass, which the team achieved by using the concept of a horizontal run into the half space, proposed by Mikel Arteta. Yet another model presents the moment the team reached by changing the area of play using a diagonal pass, a strategy advocated by Janusz Niedźwiedź.